right, hello everybody, and welcome to Thought Experiment Thursdays. We, of course, are everybody's favorite Thought Experiment podcast. We are big fans of alliteration here. And thought experiments.
And asking what if.
Yeah, really just what ifs exclusively. I know that is both of our favorite things that we could possibly discuss. Which is what if questions. Questions with really no determinate answer, because determinate answers, where's the fun in that?
That's, I guess, a fair point.
Yeah, so today's thing we're going to be, I already forget what the heck this intro is. That's fine, whatever. We're a Dota podcast, guys.
Okay.
We are going to be talking about Dota.
Just those what if questions that you can't even do a segment on them. They're just that awful.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I like them, but I do very much understand why people dislike them. They do get a bit extreme at some points. The point of this show, though, is that we're going to talk about Dota, shall we? You and I both played Dota this week. How has your week in Dota been, Proud?
It was actually pretty bad. I lost a ton of games, actually. Kind of just nothing was working out for me. Bloodseeker was getting a few wins, but not many, and then I was playing a bunch of other heroes, and they weren't going great either. It was like a mix of, it was a lot of like really bad games, and then there were like one or two where I was like, yeah, I kind of just knew this game was going to be a loss. I just wanted to play this hero. It was so, I mean, you know, there was some self-reflection, there was some, you know, just general vitriol towards the human population, but you know, it's whatever. But the last game I played was a Sven game that was fantastic, and that kind of brought the life back into me.
Yeah, I've been seeing actually a lot of Sven recently. Is it?
Yeah, I mean, he's still good.
I know. So BTS has their podcast, and they were just saying how, or
yeah,
Blitz
I was just listened to that a little bit.
Blitz was talking about what he wants his teammates to do in pubs, and the question was like, what carries do you want your carry to play in pubs if like you're 7k and they're 5k? And he said, I want them to pick heroes that can't fail. I want them to pick Sven and Juggernaut.
Yeah, Juggernaut maybe not, because you can get an ineffectual Juggernaut very easily, but Sven only has to get to like Mask, Echo, Blink, BKB, and then Daedalus, and then like everything else from there is just icing on the cake. Like once I got that, my next item was like a butterfly, and I replaced my like Echo with it, but I still kind of missed my Echo. It's like whatever. It's like you really feel it once you change over the Mask and the Echo, but until then it's just like, I mean, this is an improvement, but I kind of want the other item still. It's like a side grade.
They're very known factors also, compared to some carries where it's like, if it's a Luna, like you don't know if she's going to ult well or if she's going to ult poorly. It's like, if it's a Sven, like you can be rest assured that he's either going to die or he's going to kill a bunch of people. Like there's the two possible outcomes.
Yeah, as soon as he blinks in, like you know how the next 5 seconds are going to go, and you know whether or not you want to commit to it. Yeah,
exactly. So that's the gist of it, though. Just like a week of
just some weird stuff. I'm kind of going back to Midas on Bloodseeker instead of the Yules. I've had too many games where the Yules just like led to a very slow radiance, and then I went the Midas and I would get it at like 17 minutes or some shit. I was like, all right, I'm just gonna like decide between these three options between Midas, Blade Mail, and Yules, rather than just, you know, default go for the Yules. And yeah. That's about it. Just sometimes, I mean, like, you know, like my Monkey King build's a little weird, or it's different from most people. My Lone Druid build is different from most people, but I've just had games where, like, as soon as I do something that's not, you know, a 2-month-old meta, like, it's just fucking pure rage. Like, if the game's going bad and then someone sees that I don't have Phase Echo Saber on Monkey King, like, the fucking game's over, man. Like, someone's just gonna feed. And that was negative experiences. And like people going like, Bloodseeker Radiance, what is this? I was like, that's the most common item. Like, what are you on about? So I'm like, oh man, wow, my Spectre's going Radiance and not fucking Manta Diffusal. I was like, yeah, that's a common thing. I don't know. You're gonna have some bad times, man.
I've had quite a few games like that actually recently where I see now, of course, I can't think of a specific example, but somebody will build something super generic. It's like, oh, you built like Blink on Invoker? It's like, who does that? It's like everybody does that. Like, what kind of question is that?
Probably about 30% of Invoker players, actually. I mean,
at least.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where I was just like, what do you mean? Like, how are you confused that like the Death Prophet built Yules? Like, that's the thing you do. So I've had a few of those recently, which has been it's just
shock
to the system.
Yeah.
Let's see.
What did you do, buddy?
So on the Monday show that we guested on, my like melancholy and just Dota melancholy malaise, that's the word for it, was
welcome.
fully expressed, and so I've been trying to revitalize and just enjoy Dota. So I've been playing a whole bunch of different things. I played a few Disruptor games, which were very fun, which is why I'm probably gonna be playing him on this week's episode. So that was good because like I used to play tons of Disruptor, maybe like I want to say a year ago, maybe, and especially
when we were doing team stuff, that was like one of the heroes. I basically just picked you like Winter Wyvern and Disruptor. Those were your heroes. Those even what you got.
I feel like I go through Disruptor phases where when I was still like learning the game, and I like even before I even had an MMR, and when I was just playing like casual with my friends, Disruptor was like my support that I went to because like he's high impact and Glimpse is one of the coolest abilities in Dota, especially for a support's toolkit. Like Glimpse is just a really wild, cool ability that sucks to play against. God, it's awful to play against.
I don't disagree, and especially like because like most heroes, when you can fuck someone up, it's normally like you TP to the tower and then they back up, and then you can't kill them because they backed during my TP. But Disruptor's the exact opposite. If they start backing up like as you TP, as long as you have vision of them still, that's an improvement because that's like, all right, like I know as long as they were in this position for like 1.5 seconds, my glimpse is gonna be perfect.
Yeah.
And normally people are there at a tower for more than a second. So yeah, there were so many times at TI where Disruptor would TP in, and then someone would be like halfway across the map away from the tower, like reacted perfectly, but they still just got fucking glimpsed and they died. It's great.
Yeah. And other than that, though, I was playing a bunch of things that are outside of my comfort zone, mostly just because I played an all random game, then I randomed in another couple games. And I played, I randomed Pudge, which was fun, mostly just because I really like my Pudge cosmetics. It's very
I don't like anyone's Pudge cosmetics, man.
I like mine because it's very, I have the blood red hook from last TI, and then I use a mismatch of other sets, so it's all very, you know how...
Personalized or whatever?
Well, it's personalized, yeah, but you know how in the original cosmetic guide that people always joke about, on Reddit and stuff about glance value. You know how they used to say, you have to keep it within the color palette, and now of course a lot of people have like wildly different color palette things, like the golden Skywrath wings. Well, my Pudge is like, I don't think there's a single color on that hero that is not black or red or his ugly skin tone. Like it's just perfectly stylized to suit that blood red aesthetic. So I'm very happy whenever I random Pudge whenever I play Pudge, I very rarely pick him independently. But other than that, let's see. I random Lena one game, which was amazing. Starting with a whole bunch of extra gold on one of your best heroes makes for easy games.
Always a good time.
And I did freaking horribly on a Nature's Prophet game. Another couple generic random games.
Fucking good. I hate Nature's Prophet. I've been losing to a lot of offline Prophet, man.
I have not been seen in my pubs, but in the pro games I've been watching, it's been picked super regularly. People have been.
It's first pickable.
Yeah. It's first phase in I would say most games that I've watched.
The trees are just so fucking good. They're so much stronger than a level 1 bear. It's unreal.
It's funny because literally every time I see a Nature's Prophet, I'm like, man, 2 of these treants are better than a whole bear. And I'm like, this is just sad.
1 treant is almost better than a bear. I think the bear is 2 damage more than a fucking tree. Jesus Christ. And they're tankier too. It's bullshit.
And they're fast.
Yeah, they're faster than it's those fucking trees, dude. I just I go to lane and then you just 6-2 on my support and I'm like, guess I'm soloing a ranged hero now. This isn't good.
Yeah, in my defense, that Nature's Prophet game was not I didn't even get to play it in the offlane. It was an all random, it was a single draft game, and it was just a mess. We were in a stack, and luckily somebody sacked the abandon at 10 minutes. But
yeah,
I have dabbled in Nature's Prophet every once in a while because I see him do so well. But man, he's really just not my hero. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, you don't seem like a Prophet player. I mean, I'm not really either, but.
Yeah, it's a special kind of person that I don't think either of us really qualifies. Maybe someday we'll hone the talent.
I'm sure I could, because there was a point in my life where I was like, should I become Admiral Bulldog because I already play Lone Druid, or should I just become a carry? And I was like, I'm just gonna carry. I don't want to fucking learn Prophet and then be relegated to 2 heroes.
Yeah. So that's been my week. My only really weird outlier game was I had to play a Winter Wyvern mid game. And it was just one of those weird games that this is going to transition well into our segment, which is on communication in pubs, where everybody just kind of picked heroes and or randomed heroes on my team, and nobody like moused to a lane. So I just had no clue what I was playing, and I assumed I was playing support. So I was like, oh, I'll just play Winter Wyvern because, like,
right.
I don't remember. It was a decent Wyvern game. And then our Kunkka was like, oh, I'm playing support. You're like, I guess you're going to go mid. Just do the attack speed thing. And so, like, I just had to make the best of it.
What is the attack speed thing?
So he has a plus 75 damage talent at 15. And he has his Arctic Burn, like with all of the damage it outputs and all the range you have.
Ursinity.
Actually, yeah.
Hers, sorry.
She's
your fucking mother.
Yeah, that's true. I need to be careful about that.
You're gonna get fucking beat.
So there's like, it's one of those builds where there's like a small strain of logic, and you could take that small strain of logic and like, oh, you could do this, and then take it way too far by playing core Winter Wyvern. Or I shouldn't say core, because people play off lane Winter Wyvern now, but like a core mid or safe lane Winter Wyvern. And honestly, like, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. But and the reason it's an attack speed thing is that you go Maelstrom and you just have like a decent amount of attack speed. You go phase boots. You win your lane super hard in most matchups, but I had to play against Necrophos, which kind of nullified my entire like lane mechanic of like, oh, I spam you constantly. And you go Soul Ring.
You have a lot of right click damage, like you don't beat Necro.
Yeah. And I mean, we killed him a bunch of times just through like good ganks and all that, but it was just like, my ability to push out waves, I could not abuse because he just healed waves and he pushed my waves out and all that. So it was really awkward. So, because a lot of these like weird mids, like, you know, I talk about Disruptor mids sometimes. These weird mids are usually picked exclusively so that you can win a lane super hard in a lot of cases. And Winter Wyvern mid, I think, could win most matchups, but this matchup decided did not. And then we had a whole slew of other issues, which is not surprising given that, you know, I got forced into this weird situation.
Yeah.
But it was fun. Like, I had a good time. I went 7, 6, and 13, and like I had Phase, Soul Ring, Null, Maelstrom, and a Hurricane Pike. And, you know, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but it was just one of those weird things that, you know, those games where you just get pressured into a weird situation. Like, it's just, I wanted to go X, but instead I am now going Y.
Yeah, and then you're like, this game's a certain loss unless we just like fucking do great and snowball and like never stop, and that just didn't happen.
Yeah, so that was really my only weird game. Everything else is kind of just, you know, whatever. I was not winning a lot either this week. I think, and like the news that
doesn't like bleed over to our streak.
Yeah. Then the news that the patch won't be coming for like another month was kind of like a
month of Valve time too. So
it's forced some like harsh realizations that like I clearly need to do something different so that I can play and enjoy Dota, because what I'm currently doing has not been terribly fun for me, and so I'm just gonna start doing weird things.
Perfect time to go back to ranked for you.
I was actually thinking about that today.
In the throes of hating the patch, just make sure you're losing MMR along with it.
Yeah, it's just, it's like something needs to change, right? Like, I don't know. And so if the game is not going to change, I have to fundamentally change how I approach the game, I guess. Right. I don't know. Like, honestly, I'm mystified by how they can't just put out like a 7.06, what would it be, G or F?
I think it'd actually be G at this point.
Yeah, and like
just like Necro disabled from Captain's Mode, Spirit Breaker disabled from, or not Captain's Mode, just they're disabled in ranked. Just take them out, or just disable them. Like Spirit Breaker's disabled, Necro's disabled,
or just like
Venno, and that's I think that's enough.
And like I feel like the heroes that are really strong right now, like Necro, they have pretty clear ways they're strong. Like Necro, you could just nerf Ghost Shroud a tiny bit and maybe like, I don't know, take him down 5 movement speed, the classic nerf. Something like that. Like, do some small Necro, change. I would cry. Like, some small change. I feel like it cannot possibly be that difficult to just be like, hey.
Just feel like shit, though. Like, you can't. Move speed nerfs feel the worst. I'll take any nerf over a move speed nerf, honestly. Like, when
even an armor nerf?
Easy. When Slark lost that 5 move speed, like, the hero I never want to play it again. It just feels fucking bad.
Yeah. It is one of
Can't
those
lose move
nerfs
speed,
that's
man.
just not fun. Like, it's not
You
like,
pick-
oh, I have
yeah.
less stats. It's like, well, I just am slow now.
Yeah, like, oh, my last hitting's a bit worse. Or like, oh, I do less damage now. It's just like, oh, for the entire game, everything is just sluggish now. This is great.
Yeah, it is funny how, like, especially in the early game, 5 moon speed really does make all the difference in the world.
It's everything, man.
I mean, that's why Orb of Venom is good, right? Like, Orb of Venom's
Yeah.
slow is so incremental, but still, it makes a big difference in the early game. What do you think about... I'm getting on these tangents, but before we go into our segment, what do you think about these arranged Orb of Venom things that people do? Like, Venom, Orb of Venom...
I think they're
Are
bad
you into
unless
it?
it's. I mean, the entire point is just that you convey another 15 damage on every auto attack. The slow is
Yeah.
not a factor in it. But yeah, if you're like a casual harass kind of person, I think it's good. Like when I play Lone Druid and I'm laning mid, if I'm identifying that my bear's not getting a lot of right clicks in, I'll put it on my hero and then just have my hero toss out like an extra 15 damage as harassment and then go back to like last hitting and put it back on my bear when I'm ready to kill.
Yeah, that's fair. And it's magic damage. Is it...
Yeah, it's magic.
Is it reduced by resistance, or is it one of those weird
no,
things where it just
it's
doesn't deal
reduced.
enough damage to be like effective?
It's reduced.
Yeah. By the way, I had a mid Lone Druid in one of my games that he ran into Lone Druid and went shreds Aki, and only on the hero, had nothing on the bear. And I was like, man, if Proud saw this, he would explode.
Well,
It
I
was
mean,
a dark
that's just
game.
the ranged Lone Druid build, and it's a fun
Yeah.
build. I just hate it.
Yeah, it was. Boy, what a mess. Okay, so let's get into our segment, which I'm excited to talk about because we have pretty different attitudes towards communication, and I think I would say most people have different attitudes towards communication. Like, there's a lot of gradation among players in how they communicate and all that. And so just from the get-go, just to set a baseline, I want to talk about how each of us approaches communication in pubs, because that's specifically where you and I have the most differences, because like one of your biggest
not so
strengths...
much anymore, man.
Really?
In
Well,
pubs?
okay.
Yeah, I don't think so. Let's hear your shit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, do we want to talk about stack communication also? I think let's just talk about solo queue.
No, we're just talking about
Yeah.
we're just talking about playing pubs.
Yeah. We don't need to add extra levels of complication to
Yeah,
this. All
I
right.
mean, in a stack, speak.
Yeah.
All right, that's that topic.
Yeah. Okay. So when Proud approaches a solo queue game, what is your approach towards communication? I feel like approach is going to be the
shit.
efficacy of this week.
I tell people to pick stuns, and then I alt click heroes to highlight them, and I'm like, pick Earthshaker, pick Spirit Breaker. Please pick these fucking heroes. My God, can you please? I mean, I don't say that. I just like, hey, we need stuns. We have no initiation. We have no initiator. Please pick Shaker. Yes, pick off lane next. I mean, like, I'll tell people like what to pick or what I think is good. And then beyond that, I don't speak very much. I don't use my mic almost at all anymore unless things are urgent. And I mostly just like type to people because doing things is so much effort. And my games have been going worse because of it. The games where I do talk all go better. But I just don't have the motivation to speak. So I don't.
So you do notice like a clear difference in
Absolutely.
games?
Yeah, no, the games are much easier when I communicate more.
Huh. So,
Like actually a lot easier.
Yeah, so
I just don't.
I have a similar approach, or I suppose your recent approach is my always approach. I don't communicate very much, other than very short, like phrases, sentences, stuff like that. I actually usually don't talk in the draft at all, even unless like something is clearly super strong or super weak. But my general rule of thumb is that if somebody else initiates communication, I will communicate with them, but I almost never initiate myself. I almost never speak on microphone, and I hate when people speak to me on microphone, specifically because even in ranked, but in unranked especially, I usually have music on or I'm listening to podcasts or something. And I know a lot of other people in both unranked and ranked do the same thing. So I find that speaking on mic is less productive because there's a good chance at least one of your teammates will not be able to hear you and will either not notice at all or miss it and be like, hey, what? Sorry, I don't know. So I always try to stay away from that specifically for that reason. Also, a lot of like people that don't speak English as a first language, it's a lot easier if you have some general grasp of English to read a sentence and then parse and like pick out a word rather than listen to somebody speak, because you know that's a very short thing that is in the moment, whereas text is there forever. So Yeah, I don't communicate. I used to mute people like constantly at the beginning of games, just especially when I was first climbing to 4K. That was like every game I would just go, I would play my best, and I would just play my own game. I would mute everybody. Nowadays, I don't mute everybody. I just have a very liberal policy with muting. Like if somebody tilts me or detracts from my gameplay once, I'm like, no, pass, muted. You're like,
Yeah.
You're not helping, so therefore you're muted. I'll give second chances if like they're the carry and I'm playing a support, but even then it's like I don't really need to listen to you talk about whatever. That's my general mentality. I know.
Yeah, I think we mute people at similar rates. Like I'm playing my game, and you trying to tell me how to play my game differently is only gonna make things worse.
Yeah, and I don't flame often. I flame very rarely, but I find that if I've muted somebody, I definitely won't, because like they tilted me for like a second and then I moved on. I erased this person from my life effectively, and I'm not going to go any farther. Whereas if I left that person unmuted to attempt to communicate with them, like it's just going to frustrate me more, and like it's going to tilt my teammates. It's going to just clutter chat with nonsense. Like there's just no point. So we both don't communicate tremendously, but you specifically made note that when you do communicate, your games go better. What is your approach towards communicating that you think makes it better? Like, is it just general, like, hey, I have this, or is it like a leadership type thing?
Communicate in games. I communicate anything that alt clicking something can possibly communicate or chat wheel. Of course, I throw up a bunch of like well played and stuff whenever good things happen, not when bad things happen. Like we get a kill and someone's like, "Oh, good job." I'm like, "Well played," all that shit.
Yeah. Do you do the double spam or do you just a single? I always double.
Double when it's a good thing. Single when it's when I'm saying like don't give up, like that's a single.
Yeah.
I don't want to. Don't give up to it. Like that seems like you're rubbing it in.
Yeah. I use well played and whoops. That's it.
Yeah, I double
every time I die. Whoops. Every time somebody gets a kill, well played.
Yeah, I do the whoops now too. Whoops is very good.
It's good for levity.
Yeah, but how I am with my fucking B button that says get back every time I press B. That's something you can do in your hotkeys. It's like right next to the chat wheel. Yeah, it's just under like there's customized chat wheel and then there's phrases. And I say get back with that all the time, and then if people don't, I'll like type it in like RTZ type, I'll like be cry typing a get back and be like get back with like weird capses and shit, and then sometimes people do it, and then if not, then I just like I'm yelling on my microphone like please get back, my ulti's on cooldown, get back, we need to get, and then that. But yeah, I just ping like I have an item, or when I'm in the middle of farming a camp, I'll be like, can we push this in like a minute or something like that. And of course, like I ping when I'm getting dove and that sort of thing. But that's like that's what I do as a baseline. But when I'm actually communicating in games are much easier. Like I guess like communicating whether or not I want to fight soon and where I want to fight or where I think they are and whether or not like we can smoke, and trying to say like when our next opportunity to like be a team is. And that normally works pretty well. And when I say like next opportunity to be a team means like, if I'm farming a shit ton and then I'm like, okay, when I get this item and when Ravage is off cooldown, we need to 5-man after if our like we need to push our lanes out and then 5-man, and like that helps a lot rather than just like skills come off cooldown and I ping my item and hope that and I say like Ravage is up and then some of our lanes are like pushed in and there's no planning, and then we try to do something and then Prophet gets a tier 2 while we like take a tier 1. Yeah, just shit like that.
Yeah, I definitely alt clicking, I would say, is maybe 75% of my communication in pubs. Yeah. I like alt clicking enemy items, alt clicking my own items, alt clicking abilities, etc. Like people get the gist, and that's the most important thing I would say. So just transition to like the next part of this segment that I want to talk about is that how much communication is too much. Like at what point does it become burdensome, or just let's see, like there's a word for it, but it's like the radio waves are just oversaturated with noise, and then it drowns out the useful stuff, right? Because if somebody I know we've had this problem historically with like, I mean, a lot of people do this, maybe myself included, where they will like, you remember when PPD kicked Owie, and then later on in an interview, PPD was like, yeah, he speaks a lot but says a little, basically, which is a common problem I think among Dota players, and I think that's where I find communication. That's a common problem because I think people are like, oh, I should communicate in pubs, like this is productive. And then they just say a bunch of crap that's useless, right? Like they reiterate points that are already made. And that's what really tilts me. Like I mute people fairly regularly, not because they're jerks or being racist or anything. It's just because they're talking too much. And like, I don't need that clutter. Like I know that he has a BKB. He's used it 3 fights in a row. I don't need you to tell me that he has a BKB. Like that is a known factor. So that is, in my opinion, over communication can be just as detrimental to a team as not communicating at all or communicating poorly. Are you in the same boat where, like,
for the most
over
part,
communication?
I don't mind it text wise if people are like telling me what's going on. But what I do mostly mind is if people are using like voice chat and just like jerking off and, you know, just like feeling themselves super hard in voice chat. I'm like,
yes,
I'm glad
for
you're
sure.
enjoying yourself while you're fucking like making cowboy noises with like fucking like drum and bass in the background, but like I don't want to be party to your fucking like hooting and hollering.
Yeah, keep your stuff for your stream to yourself, or to your stream, I should say.
Yeah, generally if someone is saying things on mic that aren't directly related to a kill that I'm going to be involved in or like planning around not doing things, then I'm gonna mute you. And then, I mean, also 9 times out of 10, as soon as something happens, whoever's on mic is just going to say something fucking racist. So,
yes, that is an expected factor.
Yeah, today was a high point in terms of like, as soon as I started conversating with someone, like fucking slurs within a minute. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ, these humans.
Sounds like NA to me.
Yep.
So on that note, I want to get to my last part of this. In that, at what point in communicating with your team do you just give up, either with the entire team or because with individuals it's simpler, right? Like individuals, like this person is negatively affecting my game. However, you know, they're backseat gaming, they're just being a troll, you know, X, Y, or Z. It's pretty easy to individually mute people. Is there a point at which you're just like, you just cut off from the entire game and you're like, I don't need to waste this mental energy on trying to communicate with these people? Like,
yeah,
not necessarily in a lost game either. Like,
yeah, the second the pendulum of blame shifts over to me in any respect, I'll immediately just mute everyone. And that probably happens to me way more than you because I play carry.
Yeah, you play core.
If a game is ever going badly and you're just like, wow, my carry has no items. Meanwhile, like I got tri-lane for all my supports. Both were helping the off laner the entire laning phase. And I got charged at by Spirit Breaker like 8 times. Like obviously, you know, whether or not they're right, it doesn't really matter. It's just like I will be better off if I don't hear that. So I'll just mute it all and then just keep playing.
Yeah, it definitely, I feel like cores are blamed during the game and supports are blamed after the game in a lot of cases where it's like, oh, my carry has X items, their carry has like X items plus 5,000 gold and stuff. Like they're so much better.
Like, well, they have 3 Raxes. Of course that is the situation.
And then but then at the same time, it's like after a game, somebody's like, man, Lich didn't ward all game or whatever. And it's like, well, I couldn't.
Unreal.
Yeah. That's fair. I know, like, I would say I close off communication wise if there's too many people that are communicating too much nonsense. I feel like I am just gonna get drowned out, and there's just no point in even trying. Even in like games I'm winning, I feel like this happens actually more often in games that I'm winning. I get too casual about like, oh, we're super ahead. Like I'm playing well. I know I'm gonna do all my stuff right, and if I mess up, you know, such is life. And if other people are like talking and stuff, I'm like, I don't need this like self-congratulatory, like, oh, good ganks. Or like people flaming when they're ahead. I think that's what tilts me more than anything in the entirety of communication in Dota. It's people that are flaming. Sure. It's like we just took 2 Raxes and somebody's like, oh, you messed up that RP. It's like, shut up, dude. That's not helpful.
Yeah, God, there are so many times where like I'm in what looks like dangerous positioning, but it's really positioning where like if they engage on me, we will kill them. I will probably die, but we'll get a great trade. And like that happened like several times in a game where like I would die and then we would get like 2 cores and a support. And then I would like just get like straight out like flamed for having bad positioning. And I was like, did you see how that worked out? Because that was like good. That was a good one. That was good positioning because we killed 2 humans. Anyway, but yeah, just anytime anything negative, especially when it's going good, it's like, what's like, do the math, man. Fucking 1.5 minus 1 is 1.5. We're up. We're up 1.5 Dota units. Like, that's good. Congratulate me. But no, like, if it's not going to be that, then I just absolutely no need.
Yeah, let's see. Is there any other big topic in communication? Because communication's a pretty like vague, like it's easy to generalize and say like, hey, mute people, whatever. But communication a lot of times is very hyper specific. I know a lot of times you don't always practice what you preach, myself included, where you can tell somebody to mute like other people constantly, but every once in a while you just have a game where you're like, I'm going to argue with this person for the next 20 minutes. I'm going to have fun doing it. Or not fun, but it's going to be cathartic at least. So it definitely works differently for different people. I know my strength as a player is not in leading a team unless like if I'm forced in the position, I can swing it, but it's really not like I would never put myself in that position to be like leading a pub.
For you to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of people like Sir Action Slacks is maybe one of the best examples of like he got to 5K and a large part of that was just he's really good at communicating in pubs and like energizing his team and coordinating stuff. And that's, I suppose, maybe a controversial opinion. But some people's communication is really productive. Like you were just saying, your win rate goes up when you are communicating well. So, I mean, it is personalized. And I would definitely just say these are our opinions on communication rather than how to communicate in Dota.
The best way to improve on your communication is to say things that you want to do a certain amount of time in the future, rather than just like say things you want to do shit right now. Because if I'm saying I want to push in a minute, that's way easier than like, hey, can we push this? And then someone's like, I don't have a TP up. I can't do it. And you're like, okay, I guess we're not going to do anything. And then by the time you have the motivation to tell someone to do something, again, the lanes are pushed in. So it's much better to say, like, okay, I'm going to have this, like I'm 500 gold off BKB. Can we push top in 1 minute? I'm going to farm this direction. Like that's good communication. Let's push top as soon as they see the BKB pop up on their like right side of their screen is not good communication. That's just like impulsive, like just hoping that your entire team bends to your will, which is just not going to happen.
Yeah, it's like treating it like a single player game. And of course the other extreme is what I would say probably my biggest problem in Dota is communication wise is retroactive communication of just communicating things that should have happened, and it's like, well, who cares? Like that's not useful. That's like
unless you're specifically saying like, okay, next time we shouldn't engage unless we have the ability to get on sniper. Like next time, let's do this. That's decent, but like, all right, let's not like, oh, we fucked up the RP, huh? Like that doesn't help.
Yeah. Or like, oh, like we tried to high ground, they split pushed us with an AM and we just traded racks. Like, oh man, we really should have TP'd back there with like one of our heroes. Like that's not a useful thing unless you're saying, like you said, oh, next time Winter Wyvern you TP back so that you can ult him or whatever.
Yeah, next time we'll set up this one hero that has the ability to stop AM and isn't like integral to our team fight. You go next.
Exactly.
So, like, that's useful. Other things definitely not. All right.
Yeah. So that's about that. Unless you have any other notes on communication.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
I see people talk about it so much in chat and all that I really want to talk about it. So let's get into what we're going to be playing. So you have a couple ideas. What are both, and which one are you going to probably be doing, I suppose?
All right. Well, I mean, it sounds like you're going to do Disruptor. So my two were, I played a Windrunner game earlier today where I did very well. We lost the game, but I think we had, our PA had a point booster at some point.
Yikes.
Not really sure why. Just like she bought a point booster and then afterwards bought a basher. And we're just like, you ever figure out what that point booster was for? And then the game ends. It was just like a random point booster. Anyway, so I feel like I still... I don't know, man. It was very strange. And the whole team was like, what is that for? Like, what? Are you going Scotty? And then it was just a basher. And we were like, all right. Yeah, she had it looked like she had pieces for Bloodstone. I was like, maybe she's going for Bloodstone.
Maybe the PA was colorblind and they thought it was the red one, the health booster.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, maybe they thought it was a vitality booster and they didn't notice. And they just, could have been. And anyway, so I was playing Windrunner, and I really enjoyed it, especially after playing a good amount of Necrophos, where the auto attack is just fucking bad. And
Yeah, very, very
is
slow.
Very good. And she's like nice and long range, and it's very easy to not die on her. And her power shot, like, I hadn't really played her since the new power shot that does, like 420 damage, and then if you get like another talent, it goes up to like 540 or some shit.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And that's
a lot to the first thing hit.
Good. Yeah. Yeah, and then it goes down by like 20% or whatever. But, it's all the same when you're just trying to snipe someone. But yeah, so I was playing some Windrunner, and it was very good. And I did the Maelstrom build, and I wasn't that into it, so I was going to go back to going Deso. I was just looking at what Vafa does, because his Windrunner is still super, super good, and he mostly goes Maelstrom. But I feel like you have enough AoE with a 420 damage power shot that you're fine to go Deso. And Maelstrom fucking sucks.
Yeah, I got stomped by Wind Ranger that went, let's see, what was the build? It was, general stuff, phase, bottle, null, and then they went Maelstrom, Blink, Aghanim Scepter.
Yeah,
I forget what their, I think they went Bloodthorn and then finished the Mjolnir. I can't remember even what game it was. But yeah, I'm similarly lukewarm on the Maelstrom. Like, I build it most games I play Windrunner Core. But still, I'm like, it's working out, but I wish I had something else.
You just don't want, and it's like, it's not a big enough damage item to be your damage item if you're going to spend your next 6k gold on Ags and mobility. And then you have to decide, like, okay, do I want a BKB or do I want a BKB and my only damage to be like a 2700 gold item, or 28, I guess?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you want something else. Like, you need another damage item. You can't just have fucking a Maelstrom. And that's how I feel about that.
Yeah. I know, so people definitely do Aghanim Scepter on Wind Ranger Core now, right? Like, there was a time for a while where people were like, why do you go Ags? Like, you only need to kill one person, and then the rest you can just kind of chip damage down.
Yeah, no, people are going Ags.
Okay,
I think there's merit to skipping it, but... I mean, not skipping it, but, like, delaying it till, you're, like, fourth item or something, but...
Yeah.
I think, no matter what, you're gonna get it at some point.
Yeah, all I know is that in my experience, because I definitely don't play as much as Vafa, but I used to play a decent amount of Wind Ranger support. I mean, Wind Ranger Core. I still play a lot of her support recently, and I've actually seen other people playing Wind Ranger support recently as well, which has been nice. But frequently I would have that case where every game I didn't build Aghanim Scepter because I was like, oh, other people don't build this, let me try. I was like, man, my L's just never up. Like, I can't chain fights. I take one fight and then it's like, all right, and then next fight starts and I can't.
No more kills.
I think
with the Maelstrom build, it's a bit easier because you can, if you're not going Ags, you can go for that Mjolnir and then you have enough attack speed to be fighting without your ultimate. But yeah, if you're going like the Daedalus or the Deso or whatever, then you need the Ags because you have no attack speed outside of it.
Yeah. Do you want to briefly talk about PL, or should we just save that and do that next week?
No. That's the hero that I'm probably going to be playing. I was just talking about Windrunner. Yeah, so if you're going to play a support, it would be better if I did something that did well with it. And I like Disruptor Phantom Lancer a lot as a duo.
Yeah.
A lot just for the idea that like my passive, one of my passives allows me to handle your glimpse very well. The fact that I can be on top of someone and then the second they're very far away from me, I go beyond max move speed to get to them is like very good. Because the second I'm sticking on someone, I defusal them, I slow them, it's gonna like, what's the cooldown on that? I think as you get it up, it's like 5 seconds or something like that. PL, that starts with a PL. It's right there. Yeah. And its cooldown, it goes down. It's a 4-second cooldown on Phantom Rush. So yeah, if they're 900 units away, which is basically how much glimpses on average, I will run at them and gain 40 agi, which is very good.
Yeah. Well, also one of the honorable mentions I think that just got brought up is that Wind Ranger's Wind Run can be purged with Diffusal Blade. So don't forget about that, everybody. It's incredibly strong. I feel like a lot of people don't think about that. Like they think it's just a thing that she does rather than it's like a buff that you can purge. You can also purge with other. I think you have to have a strong. Or no, maybe you don't have to have a strong dispel.
You can do it with diffusal.
It's just a weak. Yeah.
It's just a purge.
Yeah. So yeah, that's good. Anyway, yes, PL. So you had it like, what was it, like 2 weeks ago on Teach Me Tuesday? You and Cyphers were talking about PL, and there's a lot of like PL players that are very dissatisfied with PL at the moment because he's just kind of like awkward. I saw the only PL that I had success with on my team recently. I think it was on the enemy team. Either way, they went Vanguard first, and they were tanky, and they just did damage through virtue of they
Just not
never.
dying.
Well, no, they never died early because they had like whatever it was, like Aki Treads Vanguard or Aki Brown Boots Vanguard. I think it was Aki Brown Boots Vanguard Diffusal, and it just tanked them up early. Whereas like one of the core weaknesses is PL is that if you build the Diffusal super early, you deal some damage, but you're really squishy. And if you don't go Diffusal early, then you just don't deal damage and you die anyway. But yeah, so your operative build is on PL.
So I'm thinking and this is I don't know, man. I'm thinking I want to do Treads Aki Diffusal. I think that's good. I think there's enough health regen just passively in the game now, since they changed strength gain to 0.06 instead of 0.03 health regen per point. A lot of heroes that I've been needing health regen on, I don't really need it nearly as much, so I think you're fine with that a farming item, and you can also just use your illusions to tank for you when you're jungling. And between clarities and that, shipping regen, I think I'm totally fine. But yeah, so it's like Treads, Aquila, Diffusal, and then I want to go a Deso afterwards. And then after that, probably like BKB or, Scotty or Hart or some shit like that. Just, massively tanky afterwards. And the idea behind the Desolator is I've always thought that since they changed his illusions to do basically 0 damage, but they still, get the effect of Diffusal, your illusions only serve to do damage via Diffusal. Like, even once you have, 200 damage, your illusions are attacking for 32. And that's, when they have uptime, which isn't very often. And, because, one illusion attacks, and then they stop because all the other 8 ones are in front of them, and then, they have Phantom Rush and stuff, but that only goes so far. And also, they just don't do a lot of damage. If someone has a Poor Man Shield, PL's illusions do 0 damage for most of the game. It's unreal fucking horrendous. But the damage that they do is through Diffusal Blade. And you think about Phantom Lancer and you ask, what is his attack steroid? Because that's what you want to go through. And it's pretty much just the damage that comes from Diffusal Blade. Saying that the illusions are the steroid is just, pretty much false. And you also have the steroid of Phantom Rush, kind of. But that, it only does 30 agi once you have it up all the way. And before then, it gives, 6. And that's the last skill you max. So it's really just not a thing. So I was thinking, what's the best way to play around just Diffusal doing a ton of damage? And the best option is Desolator, because it's physical damage. So Desolator reduces armor, unless the opponent is getting more mana, unless there's a way to give them more mana that I can then, tear down with Diffusal. The only way to actually improve my damage, the only time that PL is actually doing damage to someone, is by making every Diffusal Blade proc do more damage. So Deso, I think it might be good.
It's interesting. And also Deso and Diffusal are both relatively cheap, right? As far as damage items go, Desolator is super efficient, so you can get them in a reasonable time frame compared to if you're going in I need a butterfly for damage. It's that's going to take a while
or whatever. So I'll have a pretty good damage spike, and then I'll just get a BKB afterwards and just try to kind of end the game with that, and then try to become unkillable afterwards and push the advantage.
Yeah, so you mentioned that you max Phantom Rush last. What is your skill build on PL?
You just max Q with 1 point so it's Q, W, Q, E, so that 2-1-1, efficient build, get all your value points in. And then you want to be maxing Spirit Lance, and then afterwards maxing Doppelganger, and then your Phantom Rush last. And talent-wise, I think you get the Spirit Lance damage. And then probably the cooldown reduction, or the stats, just 8 stats is very good. Cooldown reduction's nice, but your cooldowns aren't that big a deal. And then I'll probably take the Evasion over the Magic Resist. And then after that, probably 20 strength, because health is good, and that means I can build another damage item, which is something that I sorely lack, and Phantom Rush is not damage.
Yeah, all right.
That's it. So we're going to try to be skipping the Manta Style, and a relatively early BKB for PL at least is going to smooth that over. I might get a wand after the Aki. I'm not entirely sure. It depends how tanky I feel. But if I don't feel like just Treads Aki is tanky enough, I'll pick up a wand. And of course, I'm starting with a Poor Man Shield. Or not starting with, but I get that very early. So yeah, Poor Man Shield, Quelling, Treads, Aki, maybe a wand, then diffusal.
Cool. All right. So I'm gonna
See
be
how it
playing.
works.
I'm gonna be playing Disruptor most likely. I thought about playing Silencer, but unless like, barring them picking Enigma first, I don't think I'm gonna be playing Silencer. The Disruptor that I've been enjoying recently, and Disruptor's biggest strength, especially in pubs, and even more so in solo queue, as much as we're gonna be in party, is that you have a team fight ult effectively, and you have tons of pick-off potential as a 5-slot support that doesn't need items. And that is just a humongous advantage fundamentally to the hero and to your team entirely. So it's kind of like a Warlock, right? Like Warlock is super strong as a support in large part because sure, items are nice, like you want to have Aghanim Scepter or whatever, but you can just be level 6 with like brown boots and a windlace, or even just brown boots, or even no boots, and just throw a rock at a fight and win it. Like, it is a wild advantage to have a 5 with team fight. And also you don't need to rely on your teammates as much as you would with some other heroes, right? So it is just a massive advantage, and that's why playing him as far as 5s go in pubs is wonderful. It's like super satisfying, where some other heroes you're like, oh man, I didn't have impact because I'm playing, whatever hero. I'm playing
Jakiro
Silencer.
or something.
Yeah, or Jakiro. And it's like,
Jakiro's great.
There's only so much you could do.
Yeah, like there's nothing that a Jakiro can ever do that's gonna matter as much as a Disruptor, like silencing a Storm Spirit and a Slark inside of like a thing they can't walk out of, and also like is doing damage to them. Like it's just too good.
And
also it's a short cooldown. It's like 70 seconds.
Yeah, Disruptor is definitely in that category of heroes that we've been talking about recently, that you see this hero on the other team and you're like, man, I just don't want to play this. Like, I don't want to play whatever hero I was already planning to play. Like, I don't want to play a core this game. I don't want to play whatever. Like, my mid pool is basically all intelligence heroes. So there are certain heroes like, oh, they pick Nyx. Like, I just don't want to play mid anymore. It's like, if they pick Disruptor, I don't want to build BKBs. I don't play Lifestealer. I play Jug. But other than that, like, I don't want to deal with this crap. So... Yeah, other than like you have a Kunkka on your team and have him X you while you're getting glimpse, but even that requires absurd reaction time.
Reaction time and communication and all that shit. Which, as we just said, is not something you're doing in pubs.
Yeah. I mean, I rarely successfully avoid glimpse with X mark while playing Kunkka myself. Like, it is just not something you think of until 5 seconds later. You're like, man, I could have done that. Itemization on Disruptor is like the pretty standard, stuff where it's just like, oh, what does our team need as a support? Probably a Force Staff or a Glimmer Cape. You could build out of those. You want mana boots because he's not super mana intensive. He's not like he's a Lion where it's like, oh man, I can't use or like a Rubik where it's like I need to use all these abilities.
A lot of people on Lion don't get mana boots.
Well,
but
mana
boots is what you should do, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like Lion just through virtue of he cannot use his abilities multiple times in a fight, whereas Disruptor can. Disruptor, I still go mana boots. Like a late Aether Lens is actually quite strong. He has a cast range talent, which is big. You don't really need the cast range for your glimpse, but it is actually pretty big for your ult and for kinetic fields. And in the late game, you have a talent that gives you, what is it? I think it's -3 seconds on the cooldown for... Yeah, -3 seconds kinetic field cooldown, which brings the cooldown down to 7 seconds, and they last for 4.4 seconds. So having an additional cast range, either from the talent or from Aether Lens, is quite strong on that ability specifically.
Yeah.
But his Aghanim Scepter, I place very highly on my radar, basically as a support Disruptor. He also farms quite well. Recently, I've been building a lot of Veils on him. I go just first item Veil. I'll have, like a Windlace and a Mana Boots, and then just go straight for Veil. Because the Veil stats are nice, right? It's nice having armor on a support item. It's relatively cheap in the grand scheme of things. It's like similar cost to getting a Blink Dagger or a Force Staff.
Yeah, and build up is easy.
And there's a lot of heroes in the metagame right now that do benefit a lot from the damage from the damage amp from the Veil. But also frequently I build this item and then somebody else on my team also builds one, like a Venomancer. I'm like, oh, don't worry, I'll build the Veil, and then he just goes on autopilot and also builds a Veil. So that's been an issue I've run into in my last couple Disruptor games. Yeah. But in general, his Aghanims I plays really highly, because you will usually get it around a point in time where the enemy team, their BKBs are at like 7 seconds, maybe 8 seconds. obviously depending on, you know, how much farm you get as a support. But he farms decently well, so I've been getting it in that like mid 30, like in the 30s, and it is a wild strong Aghanim Scepter. So
Yeah.
I will probably be trying to go for that as like my reach item, but it remains to be seen, of course, if I will actually get it. And it's better in some games, but it's honestly just good in every game, right? It prevents the enemy from, it mutes them in addition to silencing them, so they cannot use items, so they can't BKB out of it, which means they're forced to BKB immediately to like dodge a glimpse, let's say.
Yeah, but if you just catch them, you catch them.
Exactly, yeah. And of course, you know, other items muting is quite effective too, right? They can't Yules, they can't Force Staff, they can't do whatever.
Yeah, Force Staff, yeah, anything like that. Yeah, and also, I mean, the later you get it, the better it is, because the later you get it, the more items the opponents are going to have. So, like, if you're, oh, my Ags is so late, well, like, anytime that you, like, the later you get it, the better its peak is going to be, right? Like,
yeah, people have more items that they can't use.
Yeah,
and it makes it last longer.
That's the nature of it. It's, yeah,
and
it's
it's
fine
huge
to get a late Ags. Yeah, it's very good. Good item. You don't, did you say like Force Staff or anything, or is that not?
Yeah. So like first item, you're not gonna rush Ags. I've only done that like once, and I can't even remember why I did it. Or once recently, I should say. I've probably done it other times. But yeah, generally you're gonna want to do like mana boost and one transitionary mid item, like a Force Staff or a Veil. Or a Veil or a Blink Dagger. I've done in a lot of games, or a Glimmer Cape. In general, as much as Force Staff obviously has way more utility as a support item than Blink Dagger, I do like because he doesn't really have cast animations, so you can just blink on top of somebody and ult.
So easy, yeah.
But of course, like, it's hard to get 2250 on a support like in one go. But occasionally, it's like, oh, we just took a team fight and we pushed a tier 1 and a tier 2. Like suddenly, I have 1600 gold. So occasionally, I'll do that. But in general,
if you went Veil, you would still want to get at least a Force Staff before going for something else. Like, I
would agree. It really, like, unless it's a really necessary Ags game, I would agree with that for sure. Like, the Force Staff is pretty big on him. He does have, like, he has the advantage personally, or of Disruptor himself, that you stay pretty far away in the fight, so you're not in danger, so you don't need the utility of a Force Staff or a Ghost Scepter or whatever in a lot of games. But, you know, obviously Force Staff to use on your allies, so, you know, whatever. It's still really strong. So yeah, we'll kind of play it by ear, but odds are I'll be going at least one of these, like, you know, mid 2000 gold transitionary items before Aghanim Scepter with mana boots and like a windlace and probably a wand or at least a stick. And that's gonna be my general mentality, and hopefully it goes well. We'll see. On that note, let's hop over
game.
Yeah, let's hop over into our game. You can watch our VODs, youtube.com/.ptv1. They'll be up there. All right, hello everybody. We are back. We've just completed our game. It was a fun game. It was a thoroughly enjoyable game of Dota 2. Nothing like last week where we had a guy feed and all that intentionally. It was a pretty quick game though. I think it was. I don't know about you, but it definitely was a good Disruptor game. It really felt like it showcased the hero's strengths and made me enjoy the hero.
Yeah. It was an okay. No, it was a pretty bad PL game.
Yeah, it was a terrible PL game. So let's go with the team comp. So the enemy team, they had a Treant Protector, a Pudge, I should go by lanes. Their off lane was a Legion Commander. They had a roaming Pudge. They had a mid lane Puck. They had a safe lane Sven, and they had a safe lane support. Although I think he maybe did a bit of jungling because he had pretty early Midas. Treant Protector. Our team had, of course, in the safe lane, PL and Disruptor. We had a mid lane Monkey King and an off lane Timbersaw, and then we had a jungle Bloodseeker that rushed a Dagon. So,
right,
like you were saying, just from the get-go, we're in draft, and it was not a good PL game, right? Like, you don't like to play against Sven as PL, right? You don't like to play against LC as PL. You don't like to play against Puck as PL.
Yeah, and I mean, Treant and Pudge are also not too great, but the things that make them okay are that Manta is good against them, and that was specifically what I decided not to do.
Yeah. You ended up with a BKB, yeah. So
yeah.
So how did you feel? Because the main goal.
against Pudge at the very least. Like the idea against like whenever you're playing against Pudge, if you have a Manta, you get hooked and then you just spam your Manta button and it just happens and then you have a chance to get out. And I died a couple times to a hook where I was like, if only I could fucking Manta this.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So the big like departure from standard PL train of thought was you doing the Desolator. So your itemization was treads, Aquila, Diffusal, Deso.
I went the wand also.
Yes, wand.
Treads Aquila, wand, then just Diffusal, Deso, BKB.
So how did you feel with the Deso? Do you feel like it was good and you'll do it again, or do you feel like it just kind of floundered?
I did a lot of damage, but I mean, in order to actually utilize it, I had to get a hit in myself. And against Sven, Legion Commander, Puck, Treant Protector, it was pretty hard to throw myself into the engagement. So it was a little bit bad, but anytime I was getting any hits in, it was very good. I would say it was a very good situation. I definitely am going to do it again. I don't, like, maybe I should say I'll try it again, but I mean, it won and I never felt weak. And as long as, Sven wasn't in God Strength with BKB, I could, like hit him once or twice, W out, set my illusions on them, and my illusions, did about 30% more damage or whatever the fuck. So this is pretty, I think it was good. And I liked not going Manta, and it let me get a really fast BKB comparatively, because I finished up Diffusal and Deso by like 21 minutes. And I was like, all right, like I'm pretty set. I'll just go BKB now. And I mean, item timings are pretty smooth. The Manta just like stalls you so hard. But no, I think it was good. I don't know. It's worth screwing with.
Yeah. Do you think there would be a different game and different situation where it would really shine compared to like here where, like you were saying, you had problems latching onto people, and obviously like this was a bad PL game straight up, but do you think like if they had certain other cores, it might be a more
if they just had like
better build?
If they just had like a Jug instead of a Sven, or really anything instead of a Sven, I think I would have been okay. And any offlaner besides a Legion also would have been good, because the second Legion saw me, she was just like, I'm gonna duel that guy, and then they would be able to like just hold me down. But yeah, and like all their disables pierce BKB and shit too. Like they had fucking Treant Protector ulti, Legion ulti, fucking Pudge ulti. Like the BKB wasn't even as good as a Manta for this game. It was very depressing. But yeah, like any game besides this one, I think it would be very good.
Yeah. So as far as my game went, like, all right, let's talk about like the overall game before we get into my specifics, at least, because we kind of skipped over that. So, how do you describe the tempo of this game? Basically, like we had our different cores hit different power peaks, and it just kind of carried us through the game, where we were winning fight after fight because like Monkey King would get an item, and then you would get an item in the next fight, and then Timbersaw would have an item in the next fight, and it just kind of. Like, I feel like we peaked during different phases of the game, which allowed us to win fights in succession. Despite Sven getting decent farm in the safe lane and taking some stacks, like he never really got to the crazy Sven that you're always worried about. Yeah,
the only thing I have to say about that is I feel like he did get to that point. It's just that we kited him very well.
That's true too. Yeah,
he got to Daedalus, right? Yeah,
he did. He didn't have BKB, which was one of the big reasons why he got kited. Like.
Yeah, well, I mean, he had it by the end of the game, but
yes,
he didn't have it for a good amount of time.
I know in the fight that we took a Rax off of at bottom, we took a fight at a tier 2, and then we won that fight, and then just went and took a Rax at like, I want to say like 31 minutes or something like that, like ballpark 30 minutes. And that fight, he didn't have BKB, and I noticed it because I had just hit 15 before that fight and gotten my -3 seconds kinetic field cooldown. And there were a few times where he was just like stuck in a corner, and like there were just so many kinetic fields that it really messed with this Sven once he had already used his blink to get in or was getting kited or whatever. So I thought that was I definitely noticed that. I will say as a disruptor game, I really had a good time in general. So disruptor, ideally, you want to be picking off squishier supports and stuff like that. So like if they had like a Lion or a Rubik or whatever, you can more easily deal with them. So it's a little. I was a little unhappy when I saw their first two picks were Pudge Treant because I can't really just like abuse them that much.
Yeah, you can't just glimpse and then we kill them in 2 seconds and then move on.
Yeah.
Like,
same thing with mids. Like Puck is, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, right? Because Puck's super evasive and Glimpse is really effective against Puck. But at the same time, the way that Static Storm works and the way that we actually saw him live through at least one fight in this game, Static Storm is not consistent or it's not persistent damage. It does tick-based damage. So he could phase shift, and then if he like a combination of luck and skill gets perfectly blinks during that, the Static Storm, since it's tick based, may not have ticked yet, so he can actually escape from the ult while the ult is actually on top of him, because of the nature of the tick based damage.
The key is that Puck needs to be facing the right way, because if you want to blink, if Puck was facing forward and they wanted to blink backwards, there would be turn speed, and then they would get ticked down during that. But as long as Puck is paying attention to the way they were facing before phase shift ends, like, yeah, they can just blink out of it.
Yeah, so that was annoying. Again, in at least one fight that happened, and he just kind of got away. But in general, though, I liked the glimpse against Puck, because even if he phase shifts, he still gets pulled back. He just gets pulled back while being phase shifted, which obviously is better than getting pulled back like normally, but is still bad. Like, it's not like you can evade it like you can with Manta.
And I mean, what if they used phase shift already?
Yeah, exactly.
Then you're fine. Then it doesn't matter. Yeah. I mean, there are so many things that Puck can evade. Even just having one thing that Puck can't use, like one of their most like needed skills against, is very good.
Yeah, so that was a nice bonus. Again, like we talked about Sven, until he had BKB, the kinetic fields were very effective against him. And then once I had my Aghanim Scepter, which was my second item in this game, I went Mana Boots, 4-staff Aghanim Scepter, with a Windlace. I didn't actually buy a wand, although I probably should have. Once I had the Aghanim Scepter, it was like, all right, if I get an ult, like this negates a lot of Puck's evasive nature. He didn't go Yules this game, but normally a Puck would have Yules. Instead, he did like a Dagon rush, not a rush, but he built a Dagon. And the Aghanims was really big against him. The Sven for Sven's BKB, it was big against the LC for LC's BKB. And just in general, the duration change was really effectual, especially because they had 4 melee heroes. So we would have combos where we would have a Blood Right from Bloodseeker, Monkey King ult, and then on top of that, my ult and kinetic fields and stuff, keeping them within the Monkey King ult and keeping them within the Bloodseeker ult, etc. So it's a nice bit of synergy.
I used Diffusal Blade a couple times too.
Yeah, exactly.
Very good.
The synergy with Monkey King was really, really big, I think. I didn't really expect it so much during the draft. I didn't think about it, and because it was our last pick. But during the game, it was in many fights, he would just be dishing out so much extra damage or be evading extra damage because we had so much AoE control within his ult that it really just it worked nicely as a kit together and really won us, I would say, not all our fights. Like there were some fights we just won purely based off of like out carrying them and having more items and all that. But there were a few fights that I noticed I was just like, we just controlled them and they just had no way to deal with all of our stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
So what else would you say about this game?
I just want to say, as like a side point on how to play PL, one of the best things to do is to have a keybind that just selects. I mean, you can just use the all other units keybind, which is what I, for the most part, do. But as you're farming, your illusions, if anything, just kind of fuck up your farming. So every time I spawn an illusion in between last hits, I'll just walk my illusions somewhere in the jungle and just use them to scout for me. I very highly recommend that because I've avoided several like Pudges roaming on me just because like I last hit something and illusion popped up and I was like, hey, walk down the lane or walk into this jungle camp, and I just saw that there was like someone that was waiting to go on me when I like continued down the lane or when I went to jungle, and that's very good to do and it's very simple. You're just last hitting, you spawn illusion, click that button, tell it to walk somewhere, and you'll have a bunch of vision. It's very good.
Yeah, agreed.
That's about it, man. Just try out Deso. Yeah. It's a good item.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. I think there's definitely an element in games and in hero builds where if they're not expecting you to suddenly have an item that's not in the general build order of a hero that has a pretty rote build like PL, it definitely takes people by surprise, and they just suddenly take a bunch of damage in a fight that they did not expect to take. Especially an item like Desolator that's relatively cheap So you can just not have it one fight and then have it suddenly the next fight. Compared to like if it's a Manta, they know like, oh, he has a Yasha, so he's gonna have Manta probably like 3 to 4 minutes from now, stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's a very consistent power peak. Like Yasha to Manta is not like it's not a drastic transition of your power. It's just okay, it's Yasha, but also illusions sometimes. Deso is, I mean, it radically transforms what you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, part of it I think another thing that contributed to it not looking quite as amazing as I think it is that Monkey King also had a Deso. So it wasn't like, oh, now we can push. It's like, all right, we got 2 of them. Sick.
Yeah, agreed. Man, I don't really have that much else to say about this game. I'll be honest.
It's a good try. I mean, this may be the Monkey King or the Phantom Lancer build. I don't know. I'll give us some more tests. Oh yeah, and go like Abyssal after BKB. I think.
Yeah,
I think that's just the best thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, especially in a game like this where like they have a Sven and an LC and like all these BKBs and whatnot.
It gives you health regen, which like you don't really need health regen, but as the game goes on, it's nice to be able to like not need to go back to base after a team fight when you're looking to transition from team fight to Raxes. Instead of just team fight to go back to farming, like some kind of health regen is good.
Mm-hmm. That's for sure. Yeah, and he doesn't have a health regen talent like Terrorblade.
No, nothing like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even have that much of a reaction to this Disruptor game. Like, I feel like this was just a very standard, like, I got good glimpses, I was able to skirt the edges of fights and not get hooked or picked off. Like, LC blink dueled me once or twice, but...
You didn't go Veil those or anything to that, or...
No, I didn't go Veil. I was actually thinking about going Veil, but it was one of these times where I had built the 4-staff. I finished my 4-staff at a decent timing around that like 20-minute mark. And I suddenly, after a fight, had like 1,800 gold. And I really just wanted to get right into building my Aghanim Scepter because I expected the Sven to be bringing out his BKB fairly soon. And especially with the 4 melee hero thing, having the extra time on my ult, the extra duration, definitely added to why I was going to build the the Aghanim Scepter instead of a Veil or a Ghost Scepter or a Blink or anything like that. If they were more evasive, then I may have gone in for something that either gave me a little more mobility or was a bit more defensive, like a Yule's Scepter. But yeah, so I just went in for BKB because they really relied heavily on BKBs. Or rather, I went in for Aghanim Scepter because they relied heavily on BKBs. One of the other aspects of it, for sure, was we had so much AoE control that I knew that I was going to get the full duration off and I was going to be helping my team a lot more compared to, like I was saying, some more skirmishy games that I may have benefited more from having something like a Veil to deal a bit more damage. Also, we didn't deal that much magic damage in the grand scheme of things. Like, I shouldn't say it, like we did a good amount of magic damage, but also a good amount of physical damage. And I didn't, like, it wouldn't have boosted anyways damage that tremendously. It would have helped the Dagon that Bloodseeker had, would have helped Timbersaw a bit, but most of our damage is coming out of Monkey King, who's physical, and then you, who's physical.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think Veil would have been good this game. I probably would have built Veil, I should say, if I was poorer. Like, if we were not winning big fights in that mid-game period post 4-staff, I probably would have tried to piecemeal build Veil compared to just bulk buying. Like, I think I bought my Point Booster and my Ogre Club all in one or something, or like close to each other. And I had a pretty well-timed Aghanim Scepter. So that was my basic reasoning for that. But this would have been a good Veil game. Like, armor's nice, especially against Sven and LC. So yeah, that's about it for me. Right. Any closing notes on the game before we go into the plugs? All right, cool. We're so set. You can watch the VODs from this game again on youtube.com/.btv1. You can catch the in-houses Wednesday nights at 9 Eastern. That's the start of them. They usually go until, I'd say, probably like midnight Eastern, depending on game length. You can find all the info on that on the website, defenseofthepage.com/ladder. You can give us iTunes reviews. They'll get read on the Monday show. Not by myself or Proud anymore, because we're not frequently on the Monday show, but they'll get read by somebody, that's for sure. Also, it helps us, and it doesn't cost anything for you. Patreon is the other way to support us, patreon.com/defenseofthepatients. You can get Patreon-exclusive episodes there, and all kinds of other goodies. They are some of my favorite content that we make, because they're very casual, especially if you want to get to know some of the new show hosts like B-Dub and Leafy, they just had recent, not one-on-one interviews, but more interview style exposés on who they are. If you're enjoying Teach Me Tuesdays and want to know a little bit more about our new co-hosts. Other than that, you can find us on Discord, discord.gg/.p. That is the hub for everything community-based, .p-based, etc. And it's pretty poppin'. I enjoy the Discord quite a bit. So if you want to ask us questions, you can go there, or Twitter, twitter.com/Ursinity, or @ProudDota for the two of us, and .p_show for the show overall. That's going to be it. This has been Theorycraft Thursday, and it's been our theory, but, well, just, I don't know, blame your jungle dick on Bloodseeker.